play you a song from the period that I'm reading about so you get an idea of what I was listening to during that time in my life. So I'm going to start with my childhood. Thank you. Thank you. This is called I'm a Barbie Girl. Some of the greatest achievements in history have been the results of accidents. The development of penicillin, the discovery of the New World. Barbie accidentally helped me make my own great discovery when I was about 6 years old. I had lots of Barbies when I was little. Okay, so maybe they weren't all real Barbies. Some were imitation, and they weren't all new. In fact, I don't know if I ever owned a new real Barbie. I don't remember having Barbie shoes or real Barbie clothes. Instead, my dolls wore scraps of cloth tied with a piece of ribbon or a rubber band. A shimmery fabric scrap could become an evening gown. The cuff from a cut-off sock could be a strapless, casual day dress. I had lots of naked, ratty-haired Barbies, and they all shared one boyfriend, whose name was G.I. Joe. I didn't like G.I. Joe very much. He had too many ball and socket joints. He looked short and stubby next to my trim hourglass-shaped ladies. But as much as I wished and begged for a Ken doll, my parents never bought one for me. Despite the fact that they were a bad match, and for lack of other eligible bachelors, my Barbies all dated G.I. Joe. Of course, the real fun was in getting dressed for those dates. I was combing my Barbie's ratty hair for her big night out with G.I. Joe when I decided to steady the doll upright between my thighs to keep her from shifting while I worked on her updo. I held the rubber band in one hand and a little brush in the other as I began my work. But I found that she still wiggled a little, so I pressed her tightly between my thighs, and that seemed to help. After a few moments of combing her hair, I noticed a strange tickling sensation in the place where my Barbie's legs were. It felt good. And after a moment or two, I put the brush down and just focused on wiggling Barbie's long, firm, slender legs to continue to create the pleasant tickling sensation. Pretty soon, I was a devoted doll hairdresser. Under the pretext of styling all my doll's hair, I enjoyed the sensation on a daily basis, until one day, my older sister Yolanda caught on. I know what you're doing with those Barbies. What? I asked, trying to look innocent. You know what? She continued. I'm going to tell Mom. I hadn't been aware that I was doing anything wrong. I could tell by the tone in her voice that I was surely going to be going to the fiery place for tickling myself. And I didn't understand why it was wrong. My dad used to tickle my neck and stomach, laughing and saying, "Oochie, oochie," while I giggled until I thought I'd pass out. Nobody ever acted like that was wrong. You shouldn't be doing that, my sister said sternly. I'm sorry, I said, and I truly was. Please don't tell Mommy. I promise I won't do it anymore. Miraculously, my sister agreed. I was so happy that my mom didn't have to find out about my wickedness that the first chance I got, I went straight to confession. I walked into the confessional at Our Lady of Victory Church, prepared to make a fresh start with Jesus. Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I began with a few of the easy-to-confess sins. I didn't do my homework. I pretended not to hear when my mom said it was time for bed. Sins that nice children commit and which one or two our fathers can easily erase. I was dancing all around the big one, trying to work up my nerve. I knew I'd have to say it or I'd go to hell, so I mustered up my courage and I finally spit it out. I did coochie coochie to myself down there with the Barbie. Silence. Pure, unadulterated silence is all that came back from the other side of the darkened screen separating me from my confessor. Had I shocked him? He was quiet for so long I started to worry that there was nothing I could do to remove this sin. After a moment or two, the priest seemed to regain his composure and finally gave me my penance. I don't remember exactly what it was, a few Hail Marys and some acts of contrition. It was a breeze. I was a speed prayer anyway. I could pray like an auctioneer. On the way home from church, I felt like I was walking on clouds, as pure as an angel. I wished a car would run me down at that very instant so I could die and go straight to heaven before I had a chance to sin again. I was right to be afraid. Before too long, I would sin again. to do a song for you that I used to listen to with my dad. My dad was a big ranchera fan. And this song is in Spanish, so I'm going to tell you, for those of you who don't speak Spanish, it's called Soy Monedita de Oro, which means I'm not a little gold coin. And the sentiment of the song is, everybody likes a little gold coin, but I'm not for everybody. So it's something that, when you think about it, really has a lot to do with a punk attitude, and I was getting that from my dad at a really early age, so it's no surprise that I fit in so well into the punk scene. I'm joined by Melissa on guitar, and Terry Ann on bass. Oh yeah, okay, one, two. Nací norteñas de cobre, me gusta decir verdades, soy piedra que no se alisa, por más que talles y talles, se queda como una, ¿a dónde vas? Que no te halles, en tu casa no me quieren, porque la paso cantando. Me dicen que soy mariachi y que no tengo pa' cuando darte el traje de boda que el tiempo te estoy quitando. No soy monedita de oro para caerles bien a todos. Así nací, así soy, si no me quieren, ni modo. Ay, corazón bandolero, relincharía cuando quieras, por ese caballo fino, que avanzarás cuando quieras. No, no tenemos prisa, hay nos querrán cuando quieran. Soy monedita de oro para caerles bien a todos. Así nací, así soy, si no me quieren, ni modo. I mostly play the guitar for myself, so I decided, well, I'm just going to trust these girls. Sorry, I also, I don't know why, I think it's because I'm on stage. I always like either have to go to the bathroom or blow my nose while I'm up here. It's just one of those weird things. So when I got into junior high school, I kind of started picking my own songs instead of listening to the stuff that my parents and my sister and like the people in my neighborhood were listening to. And so I'm going to read you an excerpt that has a little bit to do with that. Listening to rock music and talking about it felt like I was discovering my way home. I made new friends who were all rock fans, but not just ordinary rock fans. They understood the appeal of rock artists who were pushing against convention. It was one thing to like Led Zeppelin, and quite another to like David Bowie and Elton John, who were seen as total freaks by most of the kids at my school. There was a lot of homophobia in the early 1970s. Elton John was closeted at the time, but he wore outrageous outfits that raised speculation about his sexuality. I was convinced that Elton was straight and that someday I'd meet and marry him. Bowie was openly bisexual, a relatively new concept for teenage kids in East LA. and one that was very threatening to a culture which preferred clearly defined gender roles. Around the same time, the movie Lady Sings the Blues came out. I was already a Supremes fan, so I enjoyed the music without the burden of having to compare Diana Ross to Billie Holiday, since I'd never heard of Billie Holiday before. I bought the soundtrack, and through that, I also became interested in finding original music by Billie and Bessie Smith. I fell in love with both of them, and the way these two very different yet powerful women expressed themselves through their music. I was in the process of redefining myself. The tough girl look and attitude had helped me, but I didn't fit in with gang culture. My class clown antics had negatively affected my grades. My love of rock music had not won me general popularity, but it had gained me a few quirky friends who appreciated my offbeat taste. There had always been a soundtrack to my life, and I had always loved music, but up until this point, it had been selected for me by others. My father, sister, teachers, peers, my surroundings had dictated the soundtrack for my childhood. Now, there was a new sound in my life. I had embarked on a self-guided audio adventure. My world was becoming stereophonic. I imagined myself in a music world where people sang to each other instead of speaking and spontaneously broke out into dance numbers. My heroes were artists who defied society with their music, their outrageous clothes, and their unconventional sexuality. Suddenly, everything was gloriously colorful and open to endless possibilities. Everything good in this new music, appropriately called glitter, spilled over into the way I looked at myself and my life. So, around this time, I was an Elton John stalker. I bought myself a pair of glasses like him, and I went to every Elton John event. You know, I'd look up where he was going to be, and then I'd wait outside, hoping to, you know, grab a lock of his hair or something. I was really scary. And a friend of mine who read this book actually found a video clip of me at the Tommy premiere, because Elton John was in the movie Tommy, and he goes up and he's shaking hands with the person on television, and you see this crazy girl like bust through the guards, and I'm up there screaming on television for my whole family to see back home in East LA. It was a very proud moment for me. So I'm going to do an Elton John song for you, and I think I'm not going to play this time. Is that okay? Yeah? Or do you want me for that lead part? And I like to say that I play guitar as well as I write, which means I just do it even though I don't really consider myself, you know, like a great guitarist or a fabulous writer. I feel like I have something to say, and I just do it. So for anybody who's learning to play an instrument, I encourage you to get up on stage. 1, 2, 3, 4. Everything about this house is gonna punk rock came around. And I was trying to form an all-girl band with Patricia Raynon, who now goes by Patricia Vanian. She plays bass in the band, but originally we were going to form an all-girl band together, and we couldn't find enough female musicians around, which it's so exciting to see so many female musicians now who are just awesome. It's great. It makes me so happy. So at the time, we would put ads in the newspaper, and guys would answer, you know, and we answered an ad with Geza X answered our ad, and he just talked and talked and talked until we had to audition him. So it turned out that we let them join the band, and we decided that we were all going to wear paper bags on our heads. And it was kind of cool because we got to be somewhat anonymous. We also had a chance to create a sort of personality on our bags. And it was very empowering in a way to wear a paper bag over your head. So once again, if you feel like, oh, I'm just learning to play, put a bag on your head and play, nobody will know. So this is, another thing that happened is when I was growing up, my dad used to beat up my mom all the time. So I grew up in a really, I had like a real sense of powerlessness. You know, I felt like I had no control over my environment because I really wanted to defend my mom from my dad's abuse, but I didn't have a chance to. So I held a lot of it in, and when punk rock came around, I think some of that rage manifested on stage, and people started writing. When they'd see the band, they would pick up on that. Even though I wasn't consciously trying to do that, I think some of that anger came out. And in reviews, people would refer to me as a violence girl or a Babylonian gorgon. So this particular excerpt is called Violence Girl, and let me read that to you. 1, 2, 3, 4! My band rips into our opening song. The music is loud, fast, tight, and intense. A wave of bodies surges at the front of the stage as the audience explodes into frenetic dancing. The music's blaring at my back. I'm gonna ride this wave. I grab the microphone from the stand and belt out the words. She's taking too much in the domesticated world. She's tearing it to pieces. She's a violence girl. I'm bouncing on stiletto heels like a fighter in a ring. I charge out onto the front of the stage, full of adrenaline and fire. I sing into the faces in the front rows. They are my current, my source of energy. I urge them to engage. I know there's something in them, some inner carbonation lying still, waiting to be shaken. It's fizzing in them as I shake them. Shake, motherfucker, shake. I want you to explode with me. I'm stomping, jogging, and dancing all over the stage, teetering precariously on my high heels. I spot an area of spectators in front of Patricia, my bassist. Fuck that, no spectators, we're all participants here. I get up in their faces as I continue to spew out the words. Now they're dancing. That's right, keep it going. She's a violence girl, she thrives on pain. She's a violence girl you can't restrain. I am in my element, en mi mero mole. There is so much energy coursing through my body that surely I am dangerous to touch. Then I see him, a gnat on my windshield. A tiny insect in wire-rimmed glasses has moved toward the front of the stage. He stands facing Craig, my rhythm guitarist, flipping him off. I make my way over and the insect turns my way, sticking his insolent middle finger up in the air in defiance. Some people in the audience slam their bodies into him, attempting to swat the bug, but he resists. I reach out toward him while still singing, swat him myself. I reach to smack him, but he backs away. The gnat is emboldened now. I try to keep singing. The crowd is still with me, but he's hovering in my peripheral vision. He has moved closer, middle finger still in the air. I dance over, lean over the front row, and swing at his face. He's squished in and can't move more than a few inches back. I miss his face, but as he's backing away, I catch his glasses between my fingers. He looks at me, suddenly helpless. I smile at the gnat, hold up his glasses up high as I bend and twist them into a wire sculpture. Nat has been swallowed by the audience. His finger has submerged under a sea of punks. We're all dancing in unison, and with great flourish, I place the wire sculpture under my lovely high heels and smash them to bits. So we're going to do a song for you that the Banks did, and this song is called Babylonian Gorgon. Another excerpt, but we're going to do one last song, but before we do one last song, I just want to say that when I was involved in the early punk scene, that's the feeling that I got from being in a band and from being part of the punk community really made me aware that there was something beyond just me. You know, I started to think of myself in terms of my community. And near the end of the book, I actually visit Nicaragua. And I started having the feeling that the stuff that happened in punk, the fact that we could shape music, that we could shape our community, and that we could be active agents in what our world becomes, really translated into other areas of my life. So I'm really happy now to see the way you guys are, or many, I don't know all of you, but many of you, your generation at least, is starting to challenge the status quo. I'm so proud of people who are involved in the Occupy movement, and I am really, really think there's something. So this is the preachy part. I don't want to preach too much. I just want to tell you I'm really proud of Occupy. If you're not familiar with what they're doing, if you're not familiar with what Anonymous is doing, if you don't know what hacktivism is, and I'm sure most of you do, but please look into it. I'm going to do a song that my old friends, the Dills, used to do. It's called Class War. Paul's going to lead us. anybody. Go ahead, ask me. I'm going to be around. I'm going to be back there. I have a few books and book bags and posters and stuff like that to sell. And you don't have to buy anything, of course. You can come up and talk to me if you want to. Just hang out, come out. But if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, because nobody, come on!
Tell the Tom Waits story.
Oh no! That is not even a question.
What happened with Tom Waits?
Tom Waits, that story is in the book. But the quick version is that he showed up at one of our shows after making some disparaging remarks about my then boyfriend, Mickey Beat, who was playing in the band with us. And we were playing at a place called the Troubadour, which is very like old rock school, you know, where they had the rows of tables, long rows of tables right up to the end, and you have to have a 2-drink minimum to sit down and see the band after having to pay to get in, right? So the punks that went just started throwing the tables and chairs out of the way to make room to dance. And Tom Waits and his entourage just kind of sat there. And but before we even went on, Mickey Beat went up to the microphone and called him a fucking cunt or something. And so at the end of the show, after this is good, you know, you see like chairs flying over Tom Waits' head. And at the end of the night, once everybody had left, they locked us in to the Troubadour until those two could have it out. But and, you know, just read the story. It's better. That's a very short version of it. But just to. I just have to say that I never forgot that Tom Waits called me a whore. So I've never quite forgiven him for that, just because I didn't like him. All right, yes?
Did you get involved with the Occupy LA?
I got involved in raising money for them, and I sold some of my stuff, some like my personal collection of flyers, and I also did, we did a limited EP of some of my favorite songs from different bands, and we sold those and donated the money to Occupy. I haven't been, you know, like actually sleeping there, but I don't think that, I mean, in order to be involved with it, I don't think you necessarily have to, like, sleep there. I know many of you can't do that. Those of you who can, do it, great. Can go and take one of their classes. They have classes there. There's lots of ways to participate, and we don't all have to participate in the same way. A lot of it is like just raising awareness. At least that's how I understand it. Thank you. Do you have any other questions? No? Hi, you guys are so. Oh, Paul.
You guys did the bags ever play off the West Coast, really?
No. What do you think? No.
What was your impression of like other parts of the country, like every major metropolitan area has like their own kind of like little timeline of how things happen. And, like, I was just wondering, like, because I grew up out here, and so like I'm very East Coast perspective, both now and like before. But I was like always like I was wondering what it was like growing up in the middle of it. But like, what was like? Did you care about what was going on the East Coast?
Yeah, I came out to New York. I mean, to me, everything started on the East Coast. As far as I'm concerned, it was all about like the Ramones and Patti Smith, and that's the root. That's where the roots of punk are. That's my version of it. And you'll hear people tell you that it started in England. I think England modified what they were seeing in the States, and then we on the West Coast translated it into what we, you know, our own language. So I think every region added its flavor to it, and I think people really started their own punk communities at different periods of time. I think that New York, England, and LA had the first scenes that were really documenting, and they became known because we were putting out zines, putting out our own newspapers, and people have said, you know, well, I was in a band, but nobody's ever heard of it, and it's because it's so important to really document and validate your musicians and wherever you are. If you don't have a community, you can be the best player, and it's very easy to ignore you because there are other like great players all over the place. or the great musicians or the great artists. So it's really important to have a community to document and validate your artists. So.
On that point, I noticed I grew up in D.C. in the mid-'80s, and each city, when I thought of a city, I thought of the music there, the bands, and that area. And now it all sounds the same to me. Yeah. And that kind of, it seems like it's become homogenized. What are your feelings on that, seeing where it's coming from there?
Well, I think that kind of happened everywhere, where like the first people that did punk rock were really validated, or really accepted the differences, the quirky bands, the bands that like didn't sound like everybody else, that pushed the envelope a little bit more. And then as it grew, like there became a certain sound or a certain look that you had to have, and it became somewhat homogenous. And I think there's always been a group of really creative, like a really creative core that I think sometimes feels like, hey, this is getting away from us, this should be really creative. There should be equal men and women and, lesbian, gay, transgender people involved in it. And if it's not, then it's not really punk rock, because what are you challenging? If you're not challenging the status quo by doing your own thing, by being creative, by including everybody, because if we want, a patriarchal version of punk rock with all white guys playing the same sound, then we're not really challenging anything and it's not punk. We actually were asked we were a backup plan. We were plan B because they had asked the Go-Go's to do it. And the Go-Go's saw the contract and they wanted more control over it. And we were like, oh, we'll do it. So I think Penelope Speirs really wanted to have more women. So she's a female director and producer, and she wanted to represent a little bit more. So she asked us, but my feelings about that was that it really, it captured the band at a really bad period. So to me, it's like seeing, a photo album where you see yourself and you're like, oh, I was going through a really rough time during that period. So it doesn't bring back great memories. And then the flip side of that is that I wouldn't be here probably speaking to any of you if all I had was that Danger House single, because you have to document. And that was a great document because it was seen all over the place, all over the world. So, yes.
What role do you think that race sort of played in the LA community? And did you find more community on that note, or did you feel like you encountered more tension?
What? I'm sorry.
What role do you think race sort of played in the LA community? And did you find more of a community in that regard among other
race?
Chicano punk bands, or did you encounter more tension?
Well, when I was involved in the early punk scene, which was based in Hollywood, it was really people from all the neighborhoods, from all over LA coming to Hollywood. So you had people from all backgrounds. It was very integrated, and I felt like I was accepted. I didn't feel like anybody was expecting me to represent for all Latinos or anything, but I feel like I was, even though, I wasn't deliberately doing it. It's here I am, this Chicana, up on stage. And at the time, I didn't really consider myself Chicana. I considered myself Mexican-American because I had, in high school, I tried to go up to talk to this group called Mecha, which is a Chicano student organization. And I was wearing my freaky glasses and my weirdo outfit, and they kind of laughed at me, and I felt like, oh, you guys are just as elitist as everyone else. So I felt like I couldn't call myself a Chicana. And then later on, after I went through the whole punk experience, I felt like, fuck you, I can call myself a Chicana. You guys call yourself whatever you want, but I know, Chicanos, if Chicanos don't accept everybody, how can their movement succeed, right? So I'm claiming it. I'm a Chicana, and you can be, you know, gay, straight, play music, whatever you want to do. You can come in all different packages. So, race is who I am, and it's in everything I do, but it's not always deliberate. Yeah.
You want to see our cool down?
Oh, yeah, you haven't seen our cool, yeah. Yeah, I don't think we ever really, you know, like, I mean, there were periods when it was tense. I don't know if you read the part where I was like, where she was hanging out with a girl who made a lot of racist comments, and I wasn't quite sure what to make of that. So I kind of kept my distance from it scene for a while, and we're cool now. So. Any other questions? No? Okay, well then I'll let the next band go on, and it's going to be Hilly Eye. So I'll let Hilly Eye line up, set up, and I'll be back there.